Hey everyone, this is Phil again, and I'm back with author Carrie Harris. This time we're going to discuss her story in the Xavier Institute School of X book. All right, so like I said, I have fresh new questions. All right, so we heard last time about your fanfic about you and Kitty Pryde. So how many different stories did you write about you and Kitty Pryde?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Like how many?
They didn't survive, which is part of the reason I'm
Mm,
willing to talk about them in public because I'm sure they would be awful to read, and I don't have to go through that pressure because they didn't make it. Um, but I don't know, like at least 4 or 5 separate stories that I wrote, and I wrote them like they were episodes of the cartoon.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
is she your favorite character in the X Men?
well, yeah, she's always been just because that was the first thing that got me into the X Men because she was like me.
Mm, yeah.
She was a suburban teenager. She was nothing special. Um, and all of the other characters, like Wonder Woman, was a princess and an Amazon, and all, that was not accessible to me.
Yeah.
I was not any of those things, but I was just your average girl next door. So that's a big part of what drew me into the X Men in the first place was uh, that I could see myself as one of them and then write stories about it.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I think a lot of people, yeah, whichever you can identify with. For me, it was always Peter Parker in the beginning,
Mm, yeah,
which I think a lot of look at the popularity of Spider-Man. I think a lot of people can say that.
yeah. It's kind of the same thing that
Mhm.
Peter is really relatable. Um, and you could think, what if that was me?
Oh yeah, I mean I think that's always been his appeal. It's just he was an ordinary kid, and then just happened to fall into superpowers.
Yeah,
Same with Kitty, but she was just born with them.
yeah, exactly. And I like that she's been able to age.
Oh yeah, yeah. Although that's always tricky in comics because it's like, okay, we want to age up Kitty, but it's like we really don't want to age up like Storm or
Everyone else has stayed the same, but she has grown up.
that's like the same problem like Batman. It's like they want to age up those Robins, but they want to keep Bruce Wayne at 30 or 35, and then
Yeah,
freeze him there in time.
they're getting some serious Botox.
So yeah, so we talked last time. Yeah, you said you're a big fan of X-Men, big fan of Ghost Rider. All right, you fan casted Ghost Rider. Any thoughts on any X-Men for the MCU?
I don't know. I mean, I think the real question is how do they do it and who comes first is the
Yeah.
real interesting question for me because everybody always says Wolverine or Professor X, Magneto. Like those are the first ones you think of. Um, it's hard for me to think of anybody other than Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, though. Either.
I know someone was it on Twitter. Somebody had there's like here's a list of actors who could be Wolverine, and every picture was Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand the respect that he doesn't want to do it. I think if he was going to stop, Logan was the way to go.
I know, and he
'Cause,
did it for.
oh,
I mean, how many years was that? I mean, he probably put in 15, 16 years on that.
well, and I'm sure it's brutal on your body.
Oh yeah.
It's real easy for me. I sit right here in the room with the pictures and I type things. That's much easier than what he does.
Well, that's why we hire Tom Hollands and other actors now who are young, so we can use them for 10 at least 10, 15 years. And
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, they do say that's hard, like especially these guys who have to put on muscle mass and then drop in and put it back on. And
yeah, yeah. Not me.
So that's when you started reading X-Men, is like when Kitty first started appearing in the comics.
Yeah, I think it was about that time. It was the 80s. There was the cartoon, and so I I read X-Men back then. But like I said, you really only got kind of the broad strokes because I never was able to put together continuity. And so my comic reading has kind of become very. I read in spurts, and I don't read while I'm drafting because they cross pollinate.
Mm.
Um, so I'm actually this year I wrote a lot. So I've barely read, like, I'm not up to date on where the comics are. I know what has happened, um, because I want to stay on top of that, but I haven't gotten to read a lot of them. So the last few weeks of the year are going to be me cramming things into my head, um, because I'll finally be done with writing new stuff.
But yeah, there's so many X books now with the Krakoa
Oh,
stuff, and I mean, are you reading Marauders? That's where Kitty's at right now.
she is, and I've been following it because she's one of my favorites, but I haven't, like, I've only read bits and pieces. So,
Basically,
yeah.
Kitty is a pirate. Oh,
I know. So awesome.
I know. That's like I was reading most of the books. I think I'm pretty much reading them all now, but I was reading a bunch of them, and then my one co-host, she's like, "Oh, you got to read Marauders. Marauders is like the best X book right now." I'm like, "Okay," and then I read it. I'm like, "Damn it, you got me hooked on another one."
Mhm. Yeah, well, and it's interesting to watch where they're all going because they have so many different lines. Um, how do you how do you keep them all straight? Last time we talked about the brain in the jar. The brain in the jar is overtaxed, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't know. I have this theory right now is like they're using the Krakoa stuff to try to keep the X-Men in a holding pattern. So maybe once they start appearing in the MCU, they're like, okay, well, we can kind of shift them to what the MCU version is going to be.
Maybe. I mean, it's definitely a reset for them. Um, and just like everybody else, I'm dying to see how they put the two together
I
because
just wonder.
I want more mutants.
I just wonder if we're pulling them from the multiverse because with Spider-Man coming up soon and Doctor
Mhm.
Strange too, and
Yep. Or something to do with Wanda.
yes, yeah. Oh well, she's going to be in Doctor Strange, this
I
Doctor Strange
know.
movie. So yeah, so that yeah, everyone wants the X-Men, the Fantastic Four. Oh my
Yeah. We don't ask for much, just everything.
I mean, they've spoiled us. I mean, we live in a world where Moon Knight and She-Hulk are getting their own shows soon. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, She-Hulk, I cannot wait.
I know. I'm like, she better break the fourth wall.
Oh yeah.
She was doing that for Deadpool. Come on.
Oh well, and she's so smart.
Hmm.
I love how her character is just, let's take a bunch of opposites and glom them all together. It'll work.
Oh, there you go. You need to write a courtroom drama novel about She-Hulk. Throw Matt Murdock in there.
I have thought of that. I also would really like to write a buddy cop comic starring Deadpool and Domino.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was gonna be one of my questions. I'll be like, would you ever write a Deadpool novel? Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, please.
Oh,
Where
please.
do I sign up? I'll do it cheap.
I want that.
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay, so okay, that kind of swings me into this. Okay, so you wrote a whole X-Men novel, and now you have this story in the what is this, like an anthology? So is your name on their list, or they're like, hey, we have an X project coming up. Let's get Carrie on the phone.
I mean, I hope so.
Well, did you have
Yeah,
to pitch for this one too, or were they like, hey, we have something else X-Men coming up, and you wrote another one for us already? Can you do you want to contribute or?
Yeah. I mean, once they know where your strengths are, what you're interested in writing, they'll kind of reach out. And so yeah, they dropped me a note for this one and said, "Would you like to write the novella length piece?" Because mine has chapters. It's a little
Yeah.
bit longer than the other ones in the book. Um, and kind of give us an opportunity to see the characters because the characters in this story are the main characters of Liberty and Justice for All. So my novel follows Tempest and Triage, who are mutants that most people don't know, or Tempest because she's part of the Five.
Hmm.
Um, but they said we'd like to see them again, maybe. Um, and also kind of bring us into this new era. So we brought in Danny Moonstar and Polaris. I love Polaris so much,
A lot
and
of people do. A lot of people
yeah,
do.
I got to make some caffeine jokes, which made me happy. Um, and kind of setting up where this line is going to go. So we had a blast.
I mean, I like all these characters in this story, but I mean, do you think they would ever get away with a Polaris like solo book?
I don't know, but
I mean, she's popular. What was that? A couple months ago, they had a poll. They're like, who do you want to be the
yep,
final member of this new X team? And it was her. So I mean, she has her fans.
she does. And I think there's room for like a Polaris and Magneto story. I want to see the two
Oh,
of them together, forced to work together for something, because I think there's a lot of untapped ground there.
either that or the '90s X Factor. You know, with her and Havoc and Strong Guy and
Oh, yeah.
Multiple Man. Oh my! Oh, come on, Carrie, you have to please, please.
I mean, you don't have to twist my arm for any of these things. I'm not the person that you should be trying to talk into anything, because the answer is pretty much yes, I would like to do that.
I was gonna say, if you need someone to do that,
Yeah.
I'll message you every day and be like, "Hey, how's that X Factor book coming along?" Or "Hey, how's that Deadpool novel coming along?"
They have to give me permission. Although maybe it's better to ask for forgiveness.
Oh, hey, or write? Can you write it out and be like, "Hey, would you be interested in this?" And then if they say, "Yeah," be like, "Oh, hey, cool, good. I wrote
Yeah,
something up
here
here.
it is.
Take a read."
Yeah, I think I'd probably have to do a lot of rewrites if I approached it that way.
So
It's kind of terrifying.
is it better just to do a little at a time, just so you know, if they do want rewrites, you're not like, "Oh, I could rewrite the whole thing."
Yes, outlines. I didn't used to be an outliner. I used to kind of write by the seat of my pants. And then the first book that I sold, my editor said, "I love it. Rewrite everything after chapter 8." And that was like 2/3 of the book. She bought 1/3 of a book. So I learned the power of plotting
Wow.
the hard way.
Any tips for any up and coming writers? Number one, outline.
Well, or find the way that works for you to plan.
Okay.
Because I was trying everything that everybody else did. I had the board with the cards on it, and the cards got so dusty you couldn't even read what was on them because I did not use it. That's just not how my mind works. Um, so you just gotta find your planning process that works for you, but you gotta do something.
So, like when you write, I mean, is the cliche true? It's like, oh, the characters write themselves, or are you just writing and it's just like, oh, wait, I wasn't going to go this way, but the story just seems to be flowing this way.
I mean, it's a little bit of both. Usually, I kind of know where I'm going. And it's also different writing licensed characters than
Yeah.
your own. Um, because if you're going to throw a real wrench into a licensed character's life, you need to have a good reason why. Um, and otherwise you're looking for ways to explore parts of their character. I think that's what the novels do really well, is give you a chance to get into their head What does it feel like to manifest mutant powers for the first time? Or what does it feel like to turn into a flaming skeleton of justice? Um, and you get to see and experience that on a level that comics and movies and TV don't really allow you to do.
So when you are writing licensed characters like these comics characters, do you have like a list next to you? It's like, okay, here, I want to mention, this happened and this happened in Uncanny X-Men 157, and this, and just like a timeline of like, okay, here's the stuff I want to mention it. This is how it happened. And
I don't really have a list. I think, when I'm thinking about, like, I start out with just a short paragraph, and then they say, okay, you're writing these X-Men, or you're writing Ghost Rider, or you're writing these Avengers. And then I sit down and I think what I love about that character.
hmm,
What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What strings can I pull? Um, and then as I'm going through the comics, what I do is once I decide where in the comics it's going to sit, because I can tell you for most of my books, the books that are linked to comic series, I can tell you exactly what issue.
oh, nice.
I can tell you where it goes. So I read everything up to that issue and then I stop. Because that way I can't get confused about,
Yeah.
did this thing happen or did this thing not happen? And so it really grounds me in where they are mentally, what has just happened in their lives, um, so that with X-Men, Tempest has just returned from accidentally traveling through time.
Yes.
Whoops. And what does that mean for her? Because nobody else knows.
I mean, I mentioned this last time, but like I said, there's so many X characters. I feel like a lot of, especially some of these newer characters, like Ava Bell. Like, I remember really liking this character when she first showed up, and it's like I don't think they spend as much time as they should have on her again, but because they brought in so many new characters, and I'm so glad you brought this back up. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember her. I remember Gold Balls. Yeah, I remember all this, and it's just like you hardly see them anymore. It's
Gold Balls is one of my favorite characters of all time. I love how he shouts gold balls as they come out.
yeah.
It's one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen. But yeah, I mean, since my book was the first book in this series, one of the things that I got to do was kind of make a case for which group we should pick. And so when I pitched these characters in this part of the timeline, because there are a bunch of characters that just haven't, they just kind of got overshadowed by the big guns, because they're in a school with Cyclops and Emma Frost and Magneto and Magic, and eventually Kitty shows up. And so you've got all of these characters that everybody knows, and so the newbies kind of never got their chance, just because there weren't enough pages.
And I think, yeah, I know. And there were so many, there was a couple different teams, and I think you threw out
Yeah.
the line, which if you hadn't read the comics, you would. But if you're a comic reader, oh, hey, those time displaced, and it's like the original five. So you had that going on too, because this is when
Yep.
Bendis was on there, and there was so much going on. I mean,
Oh yeah, in my first book, you actually see the time displaced mutants. Tempest is a roommate with Jean Grey,
oh, nice.
and she's fangirling because I thought, okay, if it was me, what would I do? And the answer is clearly I would fangirl.
Oh yeah, the first lady of the X-Men, of course.
Yeah, yeah. And it's before she becomes the first lady of the X-Men. She
That's
doesn't have any of that baggage that everybody else does when they see her, which
mhm.
is kind of fun to play with.
That would be an interesting book. Yeah, set with when those original five came back.
Yeah.
Because I always found that interesting, because as they were finding out more and more stuff, like Jean finds out about the Phoenix and everything, and and Cyclops just finds out about all the horrible stuff he's done over the years.
Yeah. I mean, Scott is angsty, but that just means it's a Tuesday.
I just think writers haven't made very good choices with him over the years.
Well, yeah, I make fun of Scott a lot, but it's with it's with love. Um, and I got to write him. He had more of a presence in Liberty and Justice for All than he did in School of X for me. But I feel for the guy. I really do. He's had it bad. But man, sometimes is he dumb. I can't say I would be any smarter in that situation, but I'm not in that situation, so I have the liberty to judge.
I married a clone of my dead lover. Oh, hey, hey, the original's back. I'm going to leave my wife and my kid. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, one of the things that I liked doing in these books, probably more so for Ghostwriter, but I guess we'll just cross pollinate here and talk about both. But was that Johnny Blaze makes some stupid decisions too, but he thinks they're fully justified.
Yeah.
Um, and the books give you the opportunity to see that justification. And maybe Cyclops needs that treatment too. Um, because a lot of his choices, I think they are logical, um, but not being able to see them from his point of view in depth sometimes makes me want to throttle him.
I mean, I know mutants have problems too, but I'm like, with Johnny Blaze, it's like because of his curse, he's basically on his own a lot. So he really doesn't have a big support system. Cyclops has all these friends and loved ones. It's like, why are you so stupid? You have all these people backing you up.
Well, and he also has a family tree that's like a sequoia. I mean, it's giant. He has people. You are very right.
Oh, don't get me started on his. Don't get me started on Cable. Hey, old man. Oh, you were my kid. Okay, who went to the future and came back. Okay.
Yep.
Ah, man, they've done a lot with those X-Men.
Yes. Yes. Um, untangling it all to try to find a place to write was a big. It was a tall order, which is part of the reason why we picked an era that had characters that there wasn't a lot for.
Yeah, like I said, Ava Bell and even those other ones. It's like, yeah, there's so much potential there. And again, I guess it's just the nature of comics. New writers come in and they shift their attention to who they like, and uh,
Yeah.
I don't. I get the nature of the beast, but I don't like that where it's just like how maybe you're following a certain character or certain even just like a storyline, and then all of a sudden a new writer comes in. It's like, we're not going to do anything with that. It's like, really?
Well, and I think part of it is just that, we know that there are other mutants there. They're
Yeah.
always bringing up the new generation of them. Um, so you see them in the background and you get the idea that they are doing something. They don't just train and then disappear, um, unless that's their mutant power. Um, but we people want to see their favorites, and so the new ones don't necessarily get their chance.
Like this Wolverine guy, we never see him anywhere.
Who?
I was gonna say, would they let you do a Wolverine novel just because he is everywhere? It's like, no, he's everywhere.
Well, and you know part of the point of the books that I'm writing for currently is that they wouldn't be Wolverine novels.
Yeah.
The whole point is that they're not. um, but if they said, hey, Carrie, come do a standalone with Wolverine in it, do you think I'm going to say no? I
I mean,
really want to say yes. And one of my favorite characters is Sabretooth, who is in Liberty and Justice for All. So I'd love to do Wolverine and Sabretooth together.
damn it, Carrie can make me go out and get this book now.
Oh,
Liberty and Justice for All. No, that's fine.
sorry.
I'm like, oh, I got a whole bunch of time off now for the holidays. I'm like, man, I'm gonna be like, oh, what can I read? Oh, I guess I'm gonna have to buy the book.
You
So
have been assimilated.
I was gonna say, yeah, because I read this story, I liked it, and you're like, oh, hey, Liberty and Justice for All, kind of the same, comes before this. I'm like, The completionist in me and the lover of good stories is gonna have to get this.
Yeah, well, and it was kind of fun to be able to visit them again because I thought that was it. I wasn't going to get a chance to write them again. Even if I wrote in Xavier's Institute, I might be writing other characters. So um, it was a nice surprise.
So since you did get to come back to them now, are you maybe put like back doors in your stories where it's like I can come back if I can come back to this, I can pick something up here or
I mean, there's always more to tell. I didn't deliberately set set openings in X-Men or in Witches Unleashed, which is the Ghost Rider book. Um, but I could tell you what I'd do next. I think you want it to end. There should be an ending and a resolution, unless you're planning from the get go that there's multiple books. And even then, I want the first book to end. Um, I in the past I have tried to do cliffhangers and put out the next book right away, and no, it doesn't work the same way it works in TV. It's a bad idea, and I won't do it again.
okay, so you just mentioned that. All right, so when you finish a book, do you take a break before you start a next one or do you dive right into the next one?
I mean, I like to take a break of a
Sometimes
couple of weeks and
timing doesn't allow it.
yeah, yeah. So I try to take a break of a week or two, and I just read.
Hmm.
I read, I watch things, just kind of fill up the well again, and generate more ideas and take the time with stuff that other people have made. Uh, this year has been less of that, partially because we moved cross country,
Mm.
um, but also just because of the way that all of the deadlines panned out. I had two Marvel books. I had a novella. I had an original book of my own, all due. So I did four, close to four books this year.
I
So there
mean,
was no time.
last year did book sales go up? Because like last year with everyone in the house, that I think they said anything that people could do indoors, like sales skyrocketed, no matter what it was.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Um, book publishing is a little weird because you don't really find out how the book has done until at least 6 months afterwards.
Oh,
There's a big delay, partially because people can send books back.
mm,
Um, so the numbers come out quarterly, but they're 6 months behind.
hmm.
So you're never entirely sure how things are doing. You can kind of watch Amazon, but their algorithms are magic and they just throw darts at a board and then they do a dance, and I don't know how they get any of that. Um, so I think you're right. I've certainly had people say that they're reading more and that's how they found me. Um,
So is that like two different things they have to add up? It's like, oh, like the digital numbers and like the physical numbers and
yeah, yeah. And every publisher is a little different and handles it differently. Um, I've Aconite has been spectacular in keeping us in the loop and helping us to make the books a success. And I certainly hope that um, I'm continued to be invited back.
okay. And one more X-Men question. You were talking about you would love to do a Dazzler novel. Would it be set in the present or would it be like a period piece, like I don't know, the 70s or how?
I don't want to say too much and spoil it, but I would love to do either a Dazzler novel or a Dazzler comic miniseries, and I would love to do Derby Dazzler.
Oh,
And I think that's all I'm going to say because the rest of it would be spoilery.
oh.
Yeah.
Why? Oh, okay. Without getting too spoilery, why are we going to see this story somewhere soon?
Well, I have not sold it anywhere.
Oh,
I can say that. but I have it in my back pocket, and when the opportunity comes to pitch it, it's going. So let's see.
I mean, again, some people, I hear the name Dazzler come up a bunch too when people talk about X-Men. So it's like there's a thing. I mean, I guess that's why X-Men's so popular, why they have so many characters, because it seems like everybody has like their big fan base. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, and there are some of those characters that are, I mean, Dazzler is not as um, as much of a blank slate as the characters from Liberty and Justice.
Yeah.
She's got more page time, but she's kind of a middle of the road. And I think there are a few of those characters who people would love to see their stories.
Oh yeah, definitely. You keep throwing out these names. I'm like, yes, write that one, write that one.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way.
I mean, Deadpool and Domino would be good, but what about a Deadpool and Dazzler?
Ooh, she would not take his shit. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. I don't know if I should swear, but
exactly. Sometimes that's the best. When they don't get they don't get along.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I think you could say that about a lot of people in Deadpool. They don't get along with him.
Well, it's probably a badge of pride for him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. I will we'll cut that off there. Carrie Harris, thank you once again. Again, 2 episodes. You are now friend of the show. Anytime you want to come back on maybe when that Avengers book comes out you were talking about, or if you just want to come back and talk comics with us, I mean, you are more than welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'd love to come back anytime.
And once again, tell everyone where they can find you and the books and everything else.
You can find me online at carrieharrisbooks.com. The best way to interact with me is on Twitter. I'm Carhar, the first 4 letters of my first and last name. I have a new book, School of X, out this month, and coming in the spring will be Shadow Avengers.
Guys, everything I've read from her, it's been great. Again, she's a big comics fan. She knows what she's talking about. Again, these could be in these stories could be in the comics, so go read them. And Marvel, yeah, please come talk to her. All right. Thank you.
I'm right here.
But yes, once again, thank you. I know writers, your time is precious, so thank you very much for sharing your time.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.